It's about Bob, you know. It's Bob. That's it.
Bob is great.
B-O-B. B-O-B. Bob. B-O-B. Bob, Bob. B-O-B. Bob, 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 Bob. Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Michael. Nice to see you.
Got any movies?
Yeah, I've got a few. Anything in particular you wanted to see, or should I just lay a whole bunch of cool stuff on you?
Lead on.
Well, here's some something weird videos. You won't find these in any video store. They're pretty unique items. They're all made in Brazil. Occasionally they like to rip off American films. We had Boys in the Hood. Well, in Hong Kong it's Girls in the Hood. Here's a selection of other types of items that we like to deal with. Classic American films. Classic monster movies from the 40s. They're lots of fun. Here's a fun one. Cattle Queen of Montana, starring Ronald Reagan. We all know what happened to Ronald Reagan. Here's one of the best aspects of video. The fact that you can get information that you can't get anywhere else. You get tapes like this. These are guys talking about the global plan for, you know, world conquest, control of people, money, power, taxes. Here's a classic UFO documentary on the possibilities of aliens visiting Earth many, many years ago, which is pretty well documented in some circles. These are unique. These are actual footage of UFOs flying over downtown Mexico City on a daily basis, being witnessed by hundreds of thousands of people. This is a phenomenon that's going to bust loose any day now. This one's about the chupacabra. The chupacabra is a supposed creature that's been killing animals, livestock, and even pets. South America, Puerto Rico, southern United States. A lot of speculation here, but the fact of the matter is that there's something going on. It's probably related to the U.S. military and some kind of clandestine experiments.
I'm the only one who knows. The killer is present.
Here's a couple of new jackets we just made for a couple of tapes that aren't exist in the United States. This is Sukuban Deka. This is about a bunch of girls that beat criminals up with yo-yos.
This is Cannibal Holocaust. It's exactly what it says it is. Yeah, it is one of the most, well, perverse.
Completely uncut English language version. It's up there with Pasolini's Salo as the sickest film ever made.
Warning.
We actually used to collect 16mm films. We would get them and show them in our houses. The problem with that was most 16mm films were between $100 and $500 a piece. So it was somewhat cost prohibitive. So I got into the video business first in about 1983, putting some catalogs together for a friend of mine that had an independent store. From there, he opened a store in Hopkins in 1984, which I built for him and then helped him manage for about a year and a half until he closed it up. When he closed that up, a friend of mine financed me, bought the place from him, and we ran that for another 2 years until that became financially impossible. In the late 80s, or mid to late 80s, the large money started to come into the video business, and many of the independent stores dried up. It's just that we couldn't compete with the kind of money they were putting forth, the advertising, their budgets and things. We kind of coasted along for a while, but About 1987, it became obvious that that store wasn't going to cook anymore, so we closed it up.
Oh, nay.
Specializing in foreign films, classics, unusual things, and I put my own particular flavor into that by getting an enormous amount of foreign exploitation, horror, and just bizarre films, as many as I could get my hands on. It was also a time in the late 80s, early 90s when a lot of esoteric videos started to come out. Before that, there wasn't a lot of it. There were a few things here and there, but the whole market for collectors of the unusual hadn't really developed that well. About 1989-90, a couple of new companies were formed, including Something Weird Video Search in Miami, and some of these other people. And they started to put out unique product. They would get films from other countries. Sometimes they would subtitle them themselves. And we saw a huge market for this. And we wanted to get as much of this, or I should say, I wanted to get as much as I could of this into my business. So I started to fill the store out with material of that nature. Over the years, we added a lot of Hong Kong films when the Hong Kong craze hit in the early 90s. We were probably 2 or 3 years ahead of most of the market on that. We probably put 100 titles in, hand-selected Hong Kong action heroine, fantasy films, things like that. A lot of Japanese science fiction, art films by the likes of Louis Buñuel, Kenneth Anger, filled in the Jean Cocteau films we didn't have, and basically worked on filling out a really superb library.
What did you see? You didn't tell me. You must have seen something. Who was it?
We're going to open our own video store. When I say we, I mean me and a couple of my compadres, although I probably will be in full charge. We're going to try and stock the most unusual and eclectic and esoteric selection of video that you could possibly get your hands on. We have quite a number of sources for supply that come from other countries and just other types of filmmakers that make all kinds of unusual things, and we're going to have quite an interesting selection of things. For example, films that are coming in from Holland, such as this one, Angel and the Beasts. It's unreleased in the United States in any form. You won't find it in any video store, period. It's just an example. Classics like El Topo. This has never been released in the United States either by any legal source, but this copy is a European import that is perfectly rentable, and it's one that people have been looking for. This is the new latest Dario Argento film. He's one of the probably the top world cult film director among film collectors. And anytime he makes a film, it's pretty exciting. This is his latest. It's called The Stendhal Syndrome. It stars his daughter Asia Argento, and it's a twisted mess of horror, massacre, and death. Also going to stock a lot of interesting music material. These are both the imports. The Hawkwind's a heavy metal band. They've been around for 30 years. People in the music underground are into things like this. We have 5 different tapes of theirs, and Paul imported from England, none of which you're going to find in a video store in town. And classic items like this Deep Purple show, which was issued in Japan a few years back, and for people that were around back then, this stuff's treasure. It's beautiful stuff. It's all live. It's in hi-fi, and it's just really a treat to see stuff from 25 years ago being presented in this fashion. This is a particularly rare item, The Devil's Female. It's a 1975 German film starring Eva Kinski, and it's about a girl that gets possessed. And there was quite a wave of possession films that came out after the success of The Exorcist. This is one of them. It's extremely rare. Spider Labyrinth, 1981 Italian horror film. It's quite atmospheric and one of the best unknown horror films that you can get. Here's Barbed Wire Dolls, yet again by the infamous and ubiquitous Jess Franco. He made a whole slew of these women in prison films, shot many of them on the same sets, and just rearranged the characters and the costumes and the makeup on the ladies to make them look like different films. I believe he shot 4 of these in this particular time that this one was made. This tape has been out of print for 15 years. It's extremely rare. Okay. This is a European issue of Betty Blue from England. particularly interesting because it's many people's favorite movie. It's a brilliant film, but the American release was cut by almost an hour. This print runs almost 3 hours, and there's a complete subplot to the original integral meaning of the story that was removed in the American issue. So it's a quite sought after item. It's very, very good film. There's yet another Lucio Fulci. Many of his films are unreleased in the United States. This is The Devil's Honey. This is a completely uncut Italian language version. It's about a guy a sax player who dies. His girlfriend decides the doctor's responsible. She goes and kidnaps the guy, chains him up in her basement, and lets her dog play with him. This is one of our most classic items. It's The Punishment of Anne by Radley Metzger. This film was issued by VCA Pictures in 1985 and taken off the market the next day. There's material in this film that was considered illegal. This is a completely uncut version, and it is available. Here's some laser discs. Just out yesterday, January, Lady Snowblood. We've had this in Japanese for years, but this is an uncut, letterboxed, in English subtitled version. Very violent lady samurai film. It's brilliant. Heavily recommended. This is Toshiro Mifune, who just died recently. He's the greatest Japanese actor of all time by quite a wide consensus. This is Red Lion, a samurai film he starred in the late 70s. It's a double feature laser disc. 2 Gamera films. These Gamera films are basically only available in cheap SLP editions at the cutouts in Target or at Suncoast and places like that. These are the original versions, completely uncut, super quality on Laserdisc, and 2 for the price of 1. I'll have some music Laserdiscs too. This is X the Unheard Music, the classic, probably the archetypical LA band of the late 70s, early 80s, and it's a excellent item. Here's another double feature disc. This one is Horrors of the Black Museum, which is one of the most sought-after horror films of many years for collectors. It just recently came out, packaged with the Headless Ghost. This is one we've been looking for many years. This is the letterboxed bilingual version of Spirits of the Dead, meaning you get the subtitled version on one track, or you can switch over and get it in English. This is an omnibus film, and one of the segments was actually directed by Federico Fellini. It's quite a lovely film. The second segment features Jane Fonda, supposedly in love with the guy who lives in the castle next to her, who just turns out to be Peter Fonda. In the meantime, she wears black leather and whips guys, and it's a very interesting role for Jane. Coffin Joe films. Quite possibly the world's most interesting filmmaker, eh, Chris? Coffin Joe his real name is Jose Mojica Marins. He's a Brazilian filmmaker that shot these very cheap, very gruesome horror films, loaded with some of the nastiest stuff you've ever seen in your life. They started in around 1965. He's still making films today, I think. Actually, he made over 130 films altogether, counting his television features. But these early horror films he made are absolutely unique. They have a hallucinatory power to them that you'll not see anywhere in anybody else's films. This is Atragon. It's a brilliant film. It's about the discovery of Atlantis hidden deep under the sea. They threaten the Earth, and they build a super sub to try and even the score. This is Varan the Unbelievable. It was basically a takeoff on Godzilla. It was issued just a year later. King Kong escapes. Robot King Kong, real King Kong, and a dinosaur thrown in for good measure. Looks like there's going to be some interesting scenes in that one. This is Dagor the Space Monster. It's about a giant jellyfish from outer space that comes down and menaces to take away Earth's atmosphere and kill everybody on the planet. This is Yamato Takaru. Most of these other films are from the 60s. This one's from 1995. This is kind of like some of the Sinbad films. It's brilliant. Highly recommended. Has high-tech, great FX. Frankenstein Conquers the World. It's never been issued on video in the United States. And this is the sequel to that one, War of the Gargantuas. These are two of the most sought-after films from film collectors, and they're into science fiction and Oriental cinema. Okay, these are some window cards for some films from Mexico made in the 50s and 60s. This is El Planeta de los Mujeres Invasores. It's literally the planet of the invading women. This was basically a Mexican film that was based on Queen of Outer Space, in which a couple of guys end up on some other planet and find there's nothing but women. And they, of course, want to take over any planet they find. They discover Earth, and they hatch a plot. Very interesting film. This is completely unavailable anywhere in the world, but we do have a Spanish language print. Neutron versus El Criminal Sadico. This was a serial that was actually made in 1957, 1958, and it featured the masked wrestling superhero fighting a number of a criminal syndicate. This one, he fights the criminal sadist. They actually took this serial and cut it down into 4 films that were released in the United States in the mid-60s. We have all these films available. Blue Demon y las Seductoras. See, when these women come down from outer space, they're going to be seducers also. It's a Blue Demon movie from the mid-60s. It's a very interesting one. We have a Spanish language print available of this one. It's Incredible Professor Zovek. Zovek is a kind of a mad doctor, but kind of a good guy, who keeps a whole host of monsters locked up in his basement so they can't get loose and wipe out guys like you and me. Very interesting film. The Isle of the Dinosaurs, La Isla de los Dinosaurios. It's a cheap, low-budget dinosaur movie made in the mid-60s. We have a Spanish language print available.
He was such a quiet little kid. He always kept to himself. Do you know he didn't leave home until he was 30 years old? I literally had to kick him out. He wouldn't even...
Finally, some silence.
Well, it's been nice talking to you. I want to introduce you to the world of unusual video and show you some of the things we have available. And it's only the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands upon thousands of films released every year, and we have quite a selection of ones that you're not going to find anywhere else. So I welcome you, and please come visit.
The project's called the Kodachrome Memoirs, and basically the project consists of 3 slide projectors, 5 boom boxes running both audio and slides collected from an abandoned apartment building.
Jason worked at the Seven Gables Theater. The Seven Gables Theater owns an apartment building adjacent to the theater, and Jason was asked to clean out the apartment.
I came to work one day and they were cleaning out this abandoned apartment that they said had been abandoned for like 5 years or so. They said, go take whatever you want from there. There was a maintenance crew hauling stuff to the dump.
He found basically a bunch of junk that this guy had left when he abandoned his apartment, and included with it was this big box, big crate full of 35mm slides, audio cassettes that were all field recordings. and quite a few photographs, although compared to the literally 1,100 or so slides, not that many photographs, some negatives, and some other just sort of, I don't know, paraphernalia associated photography. One of our first assumptions is like this guy left behind his whole interest in photography, abandoned it.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe he took his best stuff with him and this was his
Right.
junk, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe this was the, you know, not the cream of the crop, this was the bottom of the barrel.
So this is the place where the slides were found, his apartment. It's a little worse condition than I recall when I was here the first time. The ceiling looks a little bit more deteriorated. I don't remember all this rubble on the floor. The slides were found in a box by that window over there. It's a big cardboard box, a bunch of slides, contact sheets, photos. The cassettes were found on this desk up on one of these shelves. There's a couple other old odds and ends, but I didn't take any of that. Looks like the place was pretty well sealed up when they came. The door to the bedroom was kicked in. You can see it's still locked. Looks like they busted a doorknob getting in here too, so they probably just assumed that he wasn't coming back.
When Jason first proposed the project to me, it was after seeing an experimental film in Olympia.
At first we wanted to kind of transfer the material to video and do more of like a documentary sort of thing where we do narration over the picture and audio. But then somewhere along the lines we decided it would be more fun to do kind of like a live multimedia thing.
Each show is completely unique in terms of the juxtaposition of images, which I think is important because the juxtaposition is often where a lot of the meaning, I think, gets drawn from the images. And we sort of loosely have the show organized into at least what we think is 3 movements, and each movement is a set of carousels. So it's a total of 9 carousels of slides, each one being almost 100 slides long.
The overall theme of the work is definitely to sort of get in touch with a man's identity, try to figure out who he was as a person based solely on the material he left behind.
We've organized the slides, and to us the slides clearly did tell a story of this guy's life as he photographed it.
Originally we wanted to call it the Memoirs of ... because we didn't know who the guy was, and we just kind of wanted to keep the idea of it was his memoirs, kind of like his visual work.
We've tried to consciously be as unobtrusive as possible into the material. I mean, as unobtrusive as we can be. I mean, obviously the project is incredibly intrusive. We've entered somebody's home and taken their things and, you know, made them public. So that's phenomenally intrusive, but given that action, we've tried to stay true to the materials that he was creating.
We do really think of him as like a third member of this, you know, film.
With the materials we have, we've done everything we can to find out what his life was and recreate it, but we haven't investigated in any other form.
From what I know of him, I think he would be happy if he found us. I think he would like the fact that his work was preserved still.
If he tried to contact us, I think we would acknowledge the fact that this is his belongings, and as much as it would pain me to do so, if he wanted his slides back, I'd give them back to him. Which is another reason that I feel safe in not having reproduced them, although they are being reproduced right now in this documentary, is that we can give him back what belongs to him. And hopefully what we've taken will exist primarily in the form of presentations and performance rather than actual objects.